we sleep. We're sleeping when we're in the reptilian brain, also tied into sleep. We are unconscious. We're really dead. And they live. It's all a big joke to them.
Yeah, and if we can start to take control of our reactions, and when you kind of come from this point of view, and you just observe yourself for a few days, just observe yourself and the way you react, and you'll see how many conflicts between individuals, arguments, emotional responses that are right over the top, and the way that we immediately react to something instead of saying, hold on a second, take a deep breath, let's just calmly look at this before we start making instant decisions. When you do that, you realize how many times a day the reptilian brain decides your decisions for you. It's unbelievable, the number of times it happens. And collectively, of course, there's a collective version of this, where you have the mob rule and all the rest of it, where the reptilian brain is manipulated collectively to have a collective response and emotional reaction. And we've got to get control of the computer system through our consciousness, instead of having our consciousness at the back of the bus and the computer system with its hands on the wheel, because that's what the conspiracy is about. While we're there, they got us. When we're not there, they've lost their ability to connect into us and therefore manipulate our perceptions.
All right, let me expand on that, because it's been scientifically proven, as you know, but for listeners who may not, by thousands of universities for over 100 years, that mice and other animals know when a hurricane or an earthquake's coming days or sometimes weeks beforehand. They can also do double-blind studies where there's a 20-foot wall. You can't hear what's going on in the next room. But if people are agitated in the next room or being hurt, brain waves, go into a pattern of disarray or being upset yourself, kind of that 100th monkey. And the system is trying to suppress this awakening, just in scientific terms, from people being, in a higher level when it comes to the use of their brain. So that's why they're putting the fluoride in the water. That's why they're injecting us with mercury. That's why they're feeding us the GMO food. All of this, that's why the television's dumbing everything down, lowering everything down. How do you see this battle shaking out, David Icke?
Well, if we don't become conscious and get out of control by computer programs, then it's going to go on, because the computer programs are going to keep following the program. This is why it's so important that no matter what our religious or non-religious or belief or anything, that we put that aside and look at the things that unite us instead of those that divide us. And like I said a few minutes ago, Alex, we have all these religions who argue and cuss and fight, but when you get to the core of them, the real core of them, they're not a million miles from what I'm talking about here. If you get it down to people can argue about the detail, and I don't see why we should argue about the detail. I mean, believe what you like, so long as you don't enforce it on anyone else. But, the basics of we are something beyond the body, and when the body dies, that something leaves, which I call awareness, other people call the soul. If we can start to get down to these levels where we all basically agree, then we can start working together without letting the fault lines of detail and religious dogma divide us. And we need to move our point of observation from the body. Instead of looking in the mirror and saying, that is me, it's looking in the mirror and saying, that is the vehicle that the real me, consciousness, is using to experience this reality. See, we have names so we can tell each other apart in the world that we live in, but you can have a name without actually being completely controlled by the fact that that's who you are. See, I don't consider myself to be David Icke. That's the name of an experience I'm having now at this time. I am consciousness having that experience. And when you come from that point of view, you don't get pulled into little me. In other words, you don't get pulled into computer level of perception.
That's it. I got to stop you. Exactly. Whenever I'm calm, focused, I can think 1,000 times faster. Everything makes complete sense. By the very nature of getting on the air, having the lights on, having the stress of having to perform, I shift in to the fight or flight, into the reptilian brain, and then lose so much of my consciousness just even when I get on air, instead of like at 10 or 11, 12 at night when everything is so clear. And it's just amazing. But what you just talked about, whenever I get above it all, then I don't hate my enemies that are attacking me and lying about me. I actually feel sorry for them and wish that they weren't, at such a primitive level. But then I also realize we can't do like some people in the East that get so into higher awareness that they stop caring even if their body's dying or they're sitting there homeless under a tree. We have to have balance between the two levels, because if people lose the will to even survive at this plane of existence, then that I see also as a great danger. Here's an example. You spray cockroaches with poison. Any exterminator will tell you this. As soon as they get hit by poison, they start having sex, trying to fertilize their eggs. And it's just like after 9/11, there was a huge baby boom. That was, the establishment did a threat to the species grand event. Oh, our tribe just got devastated. People immediately, myself included, went and got married, started having children, not even knowing why. It was a compulsion of the species, which are all interconnected and tied together. We're all individuals, but we're also part of a hive species, almost like a jellyfish colony. And so, I mean, David, I'm throwing out a lot of ideas here. The point I'm trying to make is that we can also, and I haven't done this consciously, but now that I'm more conscious, I can realize I did. I've been successful with people, waking them up to the first level, because I did at a reptilian primitive level explain you have been enslaved. There is more outside this system than you know. But then now more and more I realize that when you do open up the entire universe and the majesty of the clouds and the stars and life, and that your soul is looking out these windows, and when I look at another person, I'm looking at another soul and their entire genetic line and all those levels, almost like a symbiotic organism is what I'm beginning to realize we are, more than, I mean, it's so incredible to open up to the entire universe. And I agree with you. When you open up to that, then you realize how ridiculous the New World Order is, but still, they are physically at this level hurting people, and it's a test for the higher level to come down into the lower level and deal with this, because almost when you get tied into the higher level, you don't even want to be part of the world anymore. But it's almost like God sending Christ down to the earth to experience this in the flesh. So, do you understand what I'm saying, David?
Well, I don't think we come into this world to then ignore the fact we've done so. This is why we need the balance. You've got people like in what's called the New Age movement, and much of that was brilliantly described in a book I read a long time ago as people who were in a holding pattern above the airport refusing to land. And there's a lot of people that are in denial of what they need to do to make a difference, because they are using the thing of, it's all higher consciousness and all the rest of it. And for me, what we need to do is bring that higher awareness into the body computer, because, they can manipulate and program the body computer through the media, through education, through electrochemical means, and they do all the time. That's the bottom line.
So we have to occupy the reptilian brain with the higher consciousness, or they're always going to use it as a breach.
The point I'm making here, Alex, is we can program the computer from consciousness. If consciousness is allowed in, and what does that mean? It means opening the mind. A key thing I would say is that from the words terms I'm using anyway, the mind and consciousness are not the same thing. The mind is like an interface. You see, I'm sitting here now in an office, and if I want to go on the internet, I can't just go on the internet. I've got to go on the internet through a computer. That's my interface. That allows me to experience the collective reality we call the World Wide Web. However, when I'm a consciousness, soul, whatever you want to talk about it, and I want to experience and make a contribution to this reality, I need an interface, and that interface is mind. And the mind is fundamentally part of the body-computer system, body-mind. They are different facets of each other. And what the Illuminati are about is programming the mind. And you talked earlier about the way that people are using fewer and fewer words and are speaking slower and all the rest of it. This is all part of programming people's not just ability to express themselves in words, but their ability to express